Sounds like there's some kids still upset about the rabbit. So on this Easter day, the scripture that I chose for today's gospel is the title for our pastorate, The Road to Emmaus. And I think it's a perfect one for us on the Easter day to get some focus and some direction in our lives. You see, I think for most people, we make religion and faith so hard, we make it a lot harder than God had ever intended, and certainly it makes Jesus weep. Today's gospel gives us 3 really simple things that help us to get ourselves focused and to be stronger disciples of Jesus. And it just happens in what happened on the road. First point is this. You remember when we started Lent, I said on that first Sunday that we were created to live in community. We're created in covenant with God. We're supposed to be together. We're not supposed to be alone. So the whole context of today's gospel is these disciples who were going down the road together, okay? They were journeying together, and they were kind of moping along, but they weren't trying to deal with this themselves, okay? And as happens to most of us, as we're kind of going along a lot of times, we let our life get us down. And so they happened to be really upset about Jesus. Remember, they thought he was going to be an earthly ruler. So they were walking along saying, oh man, we're screwed now. We thought he was going to be the king of Jerusalem and he was going to set us free. And so Jesus comes along and he's walking along with them and he says, so what are you talking about? And they go, well, you know, the stuff that's been happening. And he goes, no, I don't know. And they go, are you the only person around here who's got your head stuck someplace? This Jesus the Nazarene. And so he comes along with them and he starts asking them questions. Now, that's significant because most of the times you and I in our daily lives are so overcome with stuff that we don't see Jesus who's right there. It's not like we have to ask Jesus to be here. He's always there. When we were growing up, at the end of our street, there was a Foursquare Gospel Church. And have you ever noticed that the Protestants have great lines that they put on their sign, you know, about what's coming up the next week? We don't get up early enough to do that, I don't think. And so I remember one Easter Sunday, the pastor down at the Foursquare Gospel Church had in the front of the sign, he said, if God seems far away, who is moved? I was in 4th grade. I still remember that. They're going along, and Jesus is saying, well, you know. And so what he did is he started to teach them about all the things that where he was, where the references in scriptures, everything that referred to him. But they still didn't get it because they were still caught up in their own stuff. So the third and most important thing happened. So it's about night. They didn't have a Casey's or a Quick Trip to grab a piece of pizza and head down the road. So they said, hey, stay with us. It's about night. So he went in. So they're doing what you and I should be doing. We gather around the table with friends, and the menu hasn't changed a lot. Little bread, little wine. Sound familiar? Okay. So they were sitting down and around the table, and so Jesus breaks the bread and passes it around, and they share the cup of wine, and they go, duh, it's him. And then he disappeared. He did what he came to do, and then he left. And they go, now I get it. Now, what's the Easter message? This is the Easter message. Don't miss it. The first one is this. Folks, we are in this together. I can't emphasize enough that we don't do a life of faith just in our heads. It's impossible. It may be an intellectual thing that you're doing, but we need to be together on the journey. We're all in this together, so we need to travel together. We need to travel together because that's how we help each other out. We support each other. That's how God comes to us. I remember one time when I was teaching at Wahlert, there was a senior who was a great cyclist, and he had a bad accident. He was going down a hill in Dubuque and hit a pothole and went over the handlebars and landed on his head. broke his neck. So I went up to Mercy to visit him, and he's in one of those halos, and so I said, "So, how are things going?" "Not very good." "Oh, okay." So we had a little deep talk. When somebody's got one of those things on and can't move, you can ask them a lot of questions, So we're having a little conversation. So I say, "So, how's God helping you right now?" "Not very good." I said, "So, okay, so what's been going on?" "Well, my friends have been coming to visit me a lot, and I wouldn't be getting along good without my friends." I said, "Who do you think sent your friends?" "How do you think God's going to take care of you in the hospital?" "It's going to be with these knuckleheads that you run around with." God provides that. Okay? All of us have those kinds of things, and we don't understand why things turned out that way. These two people on the road were talking about Jesus, but you might be walking down the road saying, "Man, I don't know about our marriage, or I don't know about our kids, or I don't know about my job or my future." We have all those kinds of things, and Jesus is waiting for you to say, Jesus saying, "What things? I'll talk to you about that." But we get so overwhelmed by our day-to-day experience that we forget He's there. And then we do what? The dumbest thing in the world, we try to do it alone. So we're journeying together. Stuff happens. That's life. But the third thing is really, I think, the most important message of Jesus. We need to gather around the table. First of all, you need to be doing that with your family and friends. Several years ago, they opened a new McDonald's in Rome. And if you've ever been to Italy, you know that fast food is like a mortal sin because they sit down and eat for hours, And so one of the cardinals made some kind of a comment about the fact that he was concerned that family life would kind of go down the tubes because of that. And, of course, the press blew it out all of proportion and said, the Pope said that going to McDonald's is a mortal sin or something like that. That's fake news. But his point was clear. We need to gather together around the table. That's really central to who we are as people. We have our conversations there. That's where stuff happens. But the most important table we gather around is this one. The reason we need that is not because God needs us at Mass. God doesn't need that. He's got angels and saints and our dead relatives and my dearly beloved dad, and He's got all those people upstairs. He doesn't need Mass. We do. We need Mass to sit around the table so that when we're open and Jesus speaks to us, then we go, "Oh, I kind of get where He was now." We need the reminder because the journey is too hard to do by ourselves. So we need that weekly reminder. And sometimes that weekly reminder comes to us in the Scriptures. Sometimes it comes to us in the music. Sometimes it comes to us in the homily. Sometimes it comes to us by looking at somebody else in church who we know is in a lot worse shape than we are, but by God, she's here. And so that helps me out. If she can be here with all the trouble she has, mine don't hold a candle to hers. You see what I'm saying? So that's, folks, why we chose the Emmaus Pastorate for the name of our 5 parishes. Because we're traveling on this journey together. And we all got stuff. We all got things that overwhelm us. Some things people know about, some things people never will, but overwhelmed all the same. And we need each other to have those conversations and to be thinking about that stuff. But most importantly, we need to gather together around the table, breaking bread, sharing the wine, so that Christ can speak to us in our hearts. That's why our motto is journeying together, being church. Journeying together, being church. Finding Christ in the Eucharist. So as we continue to pray today, Easter's a 50-day season. So we're going to be sprinkling and alleluiaing and all that stuff for 50 days. So put your seatbelts on because that's what we're going to be doing. But it's a reminder to us that the good news is a lot stronger than the bad news. And we're called to do those things that we see in the disciples in the gospel today, to journey together, to share our struggles and our sorrows, and to recognize Jesus in the breaking of the bread. That's why we're called the Emmaus Pastorate.